Hey, look, looks like we got another cold opening right here,
Cold
guys.
opening.
So
Let's do it.
congratulations to us once again. We will get it going right here at sportsbookreview.com. Welcome in Week 14 Opening Lines Edition. I'm excited to get this week started and underway. But you know what, Kyle? We got football tonight also to talk about.
That's right. Tuesday Night Football, and we've got the People's Champ, Larry, in with us. And every time Larry comes on, I have a good previous week MMA, so it's all good for us. The People's favorite guest, always Larry. So I'm excited for Week 14. And hey, it's fantasy football playoffs. We still got a little bit of positioning to handle tonight. We get to make fun of primetime Andy Dalton, the biggest trash can in the history of any sport at any level in primetime. Andy Dalton is going to be a disaster tonight. Can't wait to make fun of him.
Good stuff here on sportsbookreview.com. Thank you for spending your Tuesday with us today as we talk a little bit of NFL action. I'm Donnie, he's Larry, and Kyle. We're going to have some fun here in just a few moments, but some business to take care of, and it's you guys' support of this channel is what allows us to do our shows here. Come on and talk a little NFL. 75,900 subscribers here now on our YouTube channel, growing each and every day. By the time we do another show, we'll be right at that 76,000 mark. It'll be really exciting once we're here getting over 100,000. Now, Kyle might not be here once we hit 100,000, but hopefully I will be here, and certainly Larry will be a part of the show as well. Let's get after it and have some fun today. Larry, welcome in. It's great to spend Tuesdays with you, and we're going to get it started right away here with you. Those Miami Dolphins, the sign of a good football team is maybe the offense isn't firing in the first half, maybe the defense isn't playing well, maybe things aren't working out, but still piling up the W's in South Florida. You got to be excited about your Miami Dolphins here.
Absolutely. Absolutely, guys. I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving, by the way. Thank you so much for having me on. And, hey, my thanks to the Pittsburgh Steelers losing, giving my Dolphins undefeated Super Bowl season another year to go. I'm sure Don Shula looking down on that. Every year it's the same thing with us, man. Someone's got to lose so those Dolphins can stay undefeated. And, look, Tua looked really good. We need a running game. Dolphins do need a running game if they could do that play action, freeze those defenses, but I think, their defense is going to pull them out. I mean, in the last 7 games, I think we have 14 turnovers, so we're averaging 2 turnovers a game. We're allowing average 16 points against us per game, and, man, we got a great defensive back with those interceptions. He's leading the NFL, and don't forget our place kicker, man. We might not even need a punter. This guy's 8 for 8 outside 50 yards, so, they got tough 2 games out of their next 4. They got to play the Chiefs and the Bills. But I think they have a great chance. I think if the running game picks up, they're going to do very well. And Tua's just going to have to step up, man. Kansas City's next.
Yeah, and speaking of Tua, we were kind of talking about this before the show. When you look at the quarterback situation of the Dolphins, as a Dolphins fan, they're making a run. This is the best season in a long time for the Dolphins. Do you prefer Tua, or would you rather they go back to Ryan Fitzpatrick? Who do you think gives them the best chance to win?
Look, looking at it from a fan's perspective, Fitzpatrick has been around a long time. Back in the pocket, I'd rather see Fitzpatrick throwing the ball downfield, but I think Tua needs his time out there if he's the future quarterback. But I think Fitzpatrick, to me, would be the guy to put back there, especially – he can run the ball. He's not just a pocket passer, but his experience would make me take him over Tua right now. But Tua is the future.
I absolutely agree with all of that. And staying right here in the AFC East, probably the craziest ending, the craziest way to lose you're ever going to see in the NFL. And it couldn't happen to a worse person in Greg Williams. What do you think about the Jets doing their best 0-16 impersonation? Maybe bring Dan Orlovsky out of our retirement, put him in the lineup, go for that 0-16 Lions. What do you think about the Jets? And where do you think they're going to actually go 0-16 this year?
Look, we all know what the NFL means. The National Football League. Man, for the Jets and Greg Williams, it means not for long, boss. Listen, man, when you blitz on those last plays, you don't blitz, do all-out blitzes. It's almost like they want that number 1 pick, and it's crazy. It's just crazy. I thought both of them were going to get fired. I was surprised to see that they just fired the defensive coordinator. But they have a good chance of going 0-16. They really do. But it was I thought for once that they had that win under their belt, and it just fell apart. They really want that number 1 pick, I think.
Yeah.
No, and when you take a look at the New York Jets, it's just amazing it happens. And it's funny because they fired Greg Williams. Instead, they actually should have gave him a promotion, Larry. Said, thank you so much for securing the #1 overall draft pick. This is exactly why we kept you on. I mean, it's amazing. As a Dolphins fan, you're probably going, yes, the Jets won. Maybe Trevor Lawrence is going to end up in Jacksonville. You don't have to see him for the I'm the same way as a fan. It's exactly right, and that's the way you look at it. So it's kind of funny the way he's treated, where he should have an actual ticker tape parade going down, Manhattan as we go throughout the season. We're finally, zeroing in here, Larry, on the playoff picture, which is fun to look at because we do have the expanded playoffs this year with adding an extra team and how much more. Kyle and I talk about it all the time, how much importance it is to secure that #1 seed because you're the only team that's going to get a bye, even with the loss yesterday with the Pittsburgh Steelers. By rules of, AFC losses to NFC losses, they still sit, being the Pittsburgh Steelers, in that #1 spot. My question to you is, there's some interesting races down the bottom end, even in like the AFC, because I know you being a Dolphins fan, sitting at 8-4 firmly in that position, but there's teams like the Raiders and the Ravens and the Patriots. It's funny, the Patriots looking on the outside of actually getting to the playoffs here. It's kind of
way on the outside.
Yeah, who are you looking for, Larry, that says, you know what, I have my eye on this team, maybe to get in the playoffs and make a run here? Because it's easy to pick, the Steelers or the Chiefs or the Bills. But who's those teams that you're interested in saying, you know what, this team might be interested if they sneak in here?
Out of all those teams there, and not talking about who's going to win the division, I like the Raiders' chances. They got a great head coach, and I think they're one of the teams that, do have to win the remaining games if they want one of those wild card spots. But one of the races that I like, believe it or not, I love the Colts' chances of overtaking the Titans and take that division. Colts have got a great defense, and it's almost like everything that we're seeing now, it's almost set. There's not that much more to go, and unless someone collapses, like you said, I mean, my Dolphins have a secure spot, but hey, if they lose 3 out of these next 4, maybe New England can step it up. But so there's so much to look at right now, but out of all the teams, I think the Raiders have a good chance of maybe getting one of those wild card spots. They're a little bit on the outside now, but I think they got a good shot.
Yeah, I actually agree with that, even though they haven't looked good the last couple of weeks. Then we shifted over to the NFC, right? We're looking there, and obviously the quality of teams there battling for that spot, not as good as teams look in the AFC, but we've got the Cardinals, the Vikings, the Rams overtaking Seattle. What are you looking at in the NFC, maybe getting into that last wild card spot? It should be an interesting run there. My Niners are obviously out of it now.
The Cardinals were one team that I think they've lost 3 of the last 4 right now. I'm not really sure on that, but they seem to have collapsed a little bit. And I was looking at them to get that one of those guaranteed spots, because if you look at that other division, I mean, what you have there is ridiculous. I mean, I think one of those teams with 6 wins is going to win the division over there. So I like the Cardinals' chances to pull it out.
Well, it's staying right there in the NFC East. Right now, the Giants are in first place, and they've looked really good. And so they really have.
4-1 in their last 5 games.
Yeah, and Washington beating the Steelers. Are the Giants going to sit there? You kind of look at their schedule. They do have a tough schedule. The Cardinals, the Browns, the Ravens. So do you think the Giants stay there? Or does Washington overtake the Giants maybe in the NFC East?
The Giants have a hard last couple of games. And, I think it's up for grabs, but I think one of those teams, 6 wins, might just take that division. But I like the Giants' chances of staying on there. I really do.
Yeah.
It's interesting, too, because when you look at the New York Giants and now the Washington football team, 2 competent teams, you were expecting, and I even see, because I know, Larry, from your end of the spectrum here, a couple books were even posting odds of which, odds that the NFC East would not win a single football game this weekend. And here we are. Yeah, the Philadelphia Eagles were going up against Green Bay. We thought they would get beat. They did. The New York Giants, we all thought they would maybe play close and hang around, but still get beat by Seattle. And then Washington yesterday goes in and knocks off the last undefeated team in the NFL. So it's interesting the way it plays out. And it pains my heart, Larry, because just a few weeks ago, I was still able to hold my head high and go, my first place Philadelphia Eagles are going to play this weekend. And that's no longer the case, because now it's like it was nice to ride high because the NFC East was embarrassing, but you could still hold your head high by being in first place. And that sort of crashed and burned. We're now this week sitting there as a touchdown underdog against New Orleans with a rookie quarterback starting and basically no hope to make the playoffs, which is actually a good thing come draft time, as always interesting. But now we get to the point where we take a look at a few things here. Big spots this weekend because we're all fans. Even though you're on that other end of the aisle, as we like to say, on the opposite side of the counter, but we're all fans at heart. Larry, what are you looking forward to this week in NFL Week 14 that piques your interest here?
Dude, a lot of interest in the Steelers and the Bills. It's there's a lot of teams out there right now that are looking at are the Steelers going to lose? Are the Bills going to lose? It's going to help a lot of teams, and we saw a lot of interest from the very beginning. I think we have them at 2 right now. It's about an hour and a half ago. And the other game that's showing a lot of interest, because the line's at 7 right now, is the Chiefs and the Dolphins. I mean, if the Dolphins can run the ball and they can stop some of these Chiefs drives, they have a chance of taking care of that spread and covering. But those 2 games are what fans are looking at right now, and we're seeing a lot of money hit those 2 games right away.
I like that. I'm really looking forward to Pittsburgh and Buffalo. Pittsburgh certainly needs to bounce back, and you definitely want that bye if you're the older team and the Steelers, I think, especially with James Conner's problems. Talking to AFC playoffs, another big game this week, Colts and the Raiders. What do you see happening in that game? Where's maybe the money coming in? Right now, it looks like a lot of the tickets on the Colts right now. Are you guys seeing the same thing over there?
Same thing, Colts, and I think there's a lot of people wanting Phillips Rivers to finally get something out of this. And he's having a great, not so much a great year, but he's doing good things. And I like Indy's chances. And I'd like to see Phillip Rivers take them a little bit farther. I don't think he's got much time left in his career. And, I mean, he's doing very well right now. And they got a great defense.
Yes, they
do. What's interesting about the Colts this weekend, too, Larry, is I love Frank Reich. I think he's a wonderful coach, rejuvenating Andrew Luck. We saw the impact he had on the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl run in 2017. On Sunday, I was sitting on a team total of over 26.5. We, as I like to say in the Colts, had 24 points at the half, and in the first half had a big touchdown pass on a 4th down play by about midfield. I'm like, man, Frank Reich's my man. I love when he goes for it on 4th down. Then I started to see the writing on the wall with 3rd and 13 inside the red zone and a slip screen out to a wide receiver, getting them down to 4th and 1 at about the 4-yard line. And I said, you know what? Frank's going to go for this when I really was dying for just a field goal here and ended up, hey, we're still on good terms with the Colts. Still love what Phillip Rivers is doing. You could pencil them in for mid-20s this weekend. But I do want to get your take real quick, Larry, before we get you out of here. Kyle doesn't like the Cleveland Browns, and the Cleveland Browns are going to be playing next Monday Night Football when we do a live show. Do you have a prognosis that you can tell him that you think Baker Mayfield's playing well, or do you want to join Team Kyle in hating on those Cleveland Browns?
You know what? I have a small love for the Cleveland Browns because of the factor always with the Cleveland Browns. Not so much this year, but I've followed them. And I'll tell you something. Last year, I was telling myself, if Baker Mayfield doesn't do anything quick, he's got to go. I mean, it was so much hype, and I think he's having a pretty decent year. And man, who would have thought? I forget what the totals was for their wins at the beginning of the season, but I'm sure whoever took the over already is going to pocket some money because who expected to be for them to be where they are right now? I didn't. I didn't at all. And they're missing one of their top receivers. He's out, but they got a running game. I like their chances.
He's telling you, Kyle. Look at it. Listen to this man. He's telling you.
Cleveland Browns are frauds.
Don't hate me.
Just dirty frauds. Dirty frauds. Good running game.
Larry, I'm on this. Anybody that's on the side against Kyle, I am going to be Team Larry. So you can say whatever you want as long as you go against Kyle.
I think they got a solid chance. They'd be number 1 in their division if they were somewhere else. I mean, they're number 2 because they got a tough team on top of them.
That's a great division, too. I mean, because you're talking about a team, if they were over in the NFC East, might be obviously running away with everything, but you still got to go toe-to-toe with the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is tough. The Baltimore Ravens is equally tough, and it's a shame Joe Burrow went down because that would have still been a tough out as the young kid got better as the season moved along. But always fun here on Tuesdays, Larry. Thank you so much for coming on. Before we get out of here, let us hear about WagerWeb.eu, the good things that are going on because we got college basketball. NBA is starting to turn the tide. We know NFL is rumbling right towards the playoffs. A great time to be in there. What do you have going on there?
Guys, like always, man, we have some great cash bonuses going on right now, up to 100% cash. You just need to call in and see what you qualify for. Got our weekly NFL contest. And like you said, man, college basketball, thank God, it's up and running. NBA, there's a lot of future bets up and available for you guys. So And don't forget our great live betting platform, man. Anything you guys need, please don't hesitate to call. Someone will make sure that they help you right away.
Fantastic stuff, Larry. We always look forward to Tuesdays, both myself and Kyle here, having you on the show and supporting sportsbookreview.com. Guys, if you haven't done so yet, as he said, check out wagerweb.eu for all those great deals and also slick, quick interface. Get in, get out, and make your money. Larry, once again, thank you for joining us today.
Guys, thank you for having me. Y'all have a good week.
You too, brother. Thank you.
Hey, look, what a great time to have Larry on. I mean, the Dolphins are running wild here. This is not every year here, Kyle, that we get those Dolphins to run wild. It's fantastic that we're able to enjoy it because I'm not enjoying myself right now. I got to tell you, I'm really not enjoying myself being a Philadelphia Eagles fan. At least Larry can enjoy himself here as a Miami Dolphins fan.
Yeah, and then now we got Browns fans happy while 49ers fans are unhappy. What a despicable year 2020 has been. Get this the hell out of here. Absolutely ridiculous that I have to look at a 9-3 Browns team. I'm still going to call them frauds, and I can't wait for Baltimore to pummel them next Monday.
There you go. I'm looking at the chat box. Mr. says, BS, Browns haven't beat any good teams yet. I believe that is your burner account out here, Kyle.
That's it. Thank you. That's it. Thank you, Mr. in the chat. That's right. I got several.
And as we always like to say, the dude Abita says the Titans cannot play from behind. Catch Kyle on one of his DVDs. That will be a title of that.
That's correct.
See, now I'm setting you up on each one of these. That I
like that. Good job. Yeah.
Randy's in the chat box as well. So, I mean, hey, we're all here getting after it. Now, keep in mind, this is Tuesday. What do we usually do? Set the table for the weekend because it's week 14. It's not even technically week 14 yet. Why is that? Tuesday night football live from the Charm City in Baltimore between the Ravens and the Cowboys before the season. We're looking at this game going, hey, we're going to be able to enjoy a Ravens-Cowboys game. What a great tilt it's going to be. Let's see what happens. Should have been on Thursday, but then it gets bumped around. We find it on a Tuesday. The NFL trying to help the Baltimore Ravens get into the playoffs. Yeah. If we look at the lines right now, SBRodds.com, about a 60-40 ticket split here between the Baltimore Ravens and the Dallas Cowboys, obviously coming in on Baltimore. We saw the 7.5s. Once we finally got the clearance, which we all knew was coming on Lamar Jackson, 7.5 quickly balloons to 9. Seeing some 9.5s at plus money offshore, some 8.5s like here, FanDuel, New Jersey. It's clear Baltimore, to me, is going to win this game. Now, you get a lot of rest in the NFL, and that means a lot. So you take the Dallas Cowboys to play on Thanksgiving Day. They get to wait, basically a week and a half to play, but not necessarily getting healthy because still going to be playing without a majority of their offensive line. Kyle, we know how good the wide receivers can be if the quarterback delivers and has time for the Cowboys. Zeke Elliott, much maligned on Thanksgiving Day. We know he has the talent to be a standout running back. So if you just look from the skill position players on the Cowboys on offense, you think they can hang around. But as I say this, we do know the reserves are coming back for Baltimore. Calais Campbell's been down a couple weeks. Williams been down a couple weeks. They're both due back. And if there's one thing that the Ravens defensive line does just about as well as anybody in the NFL is bully a bad offensive line. And that's what you have with Dallas. Now, if you had Dak Prescott back there or a mobile quarterback that can elude those guys pushing the pocket up the middle, that's one thing. We know Andy Dalton doesn't move around all that well, so he's going to have to get the football out quickly. The Baltimore Ravens are the more talented football team, but you're seeing them favored by close to double digits. There's a lot of COVID. This isn't Lamar Jackson, MVP last year, stepping into this game. He's missed a couple weeks, not a lot of practice out of the Ravens since they're doing a lot of stuff virtually and by remote. But yes, the cavalry is coming back. Do we trust them to win this football game by 10 points here?
Yeah, and the reason why? 3 words for you. Primetime, Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton is the worst primetime quarterback ever. And now listen, let me frame this up. So 3 times this year, I have gone all in psycho mode. I hate this team. I hate this player. It has backfired on me twice. The Broncos beat the Patriots embarrassingly. And then, of course, on Sunday, I got to turn red-faced as the Browns put up, 38 points in the first half. But the one time that even I can't jinx this is Andy Dalton in primetime. We saw him on Monday Night Football just a few weeks ago against a dreadful Cardinals secondary. And what'd he do? Put up 3 points and looked horrible. Now you're getting Baltimore. They're getting healthy. They're getting both their defensive tackles back. It's going to make things very difficult on that running game. The secondary is still very good. And, oh, yeah, Andy Dalton in primetime is absolutely dreadful. So I can never, ever, ever bet on Andy Dalton in primetime. I never will. It'll never happen. He's cost me too much money. Like I said, he's burned me so bad in primetime that if his car was broken down on the side of the road, snowstorm, 14 kids, they all need my help. If I see Andy Dalton, I am driving right on by and splashing water in his face, frozen water in his face. Andy Dalton on primetime, absolute trash can. No way I can take the Cowboys. Give me the Baltimore Ravens.
Now, when you look at the Ravens tonight coming in, because it's not a Ravens team that we're used to. Well, I mean, we still think the Ravens might be able to get healthy, make a playoff run with the expanded teams from 6 to 7. But when we look across that front offensive line, you got big Orlando Brown as your left tackle, who's a very good player in the NFL. But outside of that, I mean, really underperforming bad football players up front. So you would think for once maybe DeMarcus Lawrence or Randy Gregory can make a difference here, because the one thing we know, which it's almost, counterbalance here, the Baltimore Ravens aren't going to beat you by passing the football. And that's where I think you can slice and dice that Cowboys secondary. But even though the Cowboy linebackers are having a down year, they're still fast and can cover sideline to sideline for what Lamar Jackson wants to do. Now, again, you're not just going to have the Gus Bus in the backfield. You're going to have your full complement of running backs. You should be able to extend the game that way, make extra plays on read options if you're Lamar Jackson. But I don't see the big play in the offense from the Baltimore Ravens tonight, which so many teams can really make, break the back of that defense. Now, when you flip it over to the offensive side of the football, usually we look at saying, again, we preface it by saying there's a lot of talent on this Dallas Cowboys team, particularly at wide receiver and running back, but their offensive line completely depleted. And again, going against a healthy Calais Campbell, Williams coming back at nose tackle, you do lose some of your defensive rush, because I don't think Judon's going to come back in this game. Ngakoue should be able to finally have a decent game for the Baltimore Ravens. But here's the key issue again. It's an interesting game because it's Tuesday night. The inactive reports, which come out 1 hour and a half before the game actually starts, are going to tell the tale. Because if you do get Jimmy Smith healthy, you have 3 legitimate cornerbacks, Kyle, to cover those 3 legitimate wide receivers on the Dallas Cowboys. If you're down Jimmy Smith, who is the best of that bunch to me, at least on the outside, that might weigh a little bit here. Because, again, we always like to say, we're not talking about games where it's a pick-em where, hey, let's just take the Ravens to win the football game like we think they should. You're going to have to cover 10 points in this game here.
Yeah, I honestly think they do. I think Lamar Jackson, I like the over 55.5 yards rushing prop. I think he's going to be fine. I know they're trying to play up. How will he look after COVID? Does he need that much? He doesn't have a whole lot of timing with his wideouts anyway. It's the read option, RPO type stuff. But I will say this, the Dallas Cowboys secondary is bad. And someone just asked a question in the chat box, top wide receiver tonight. All 3 wide receivers, Bryant, Devin DuVernay, and Marquise Brown, have great matchups. But if you look at Hollywood Brown, without Mark Andrews tonight, he's going to be the favorite target for Lamar Jackson. He's going to get Anthony Brown, who's targeted on 24% of his defensive coverage routes. That's more than any other corner on the Dallas Cowboys. It's a massive number. He gives up nearly a half a fantasy point per route ran against. So don't be surprised if you see a big play or a touchdown to Hollywood Brown tonight. If you're playing DraftKings or some daily fantasy and you're looking for a sleeper without Mark Andrews, Luke Wilson sitting down there at 1,800 on DraftKings could be an interesting play as well. I think you see some big plays out of Baltimore. I think they get right. I think the defense is all over Dallas tonight. Andy Dalton is his usual primetime self. So even though, look, I'm not huge on 8.5, 9.5 point spreads. Who is? It's Andy Dalton on primetime. I'm fading him completely. Give me the Ravens, and I feel pretty damn good about it.
Like, I want to take out, like, the last Pittsburgh game, which the Ravens played with, they were absolutely putrid on offense. They actually had 90 passing yards, and, like, 70 came on that ridiculous, dump-off pass, it seemed like, where DBs fell down and, Hollywood Brown was able to take it to the house. But outside of that, they still haven't played all that well. Against Tennessee, who's a really bad defense. 129 yards on the ground, 177 in the air. They played a decent football game, but still lost by 6 points and only put up 17 points versus New England Patriots, 115 yards on the ground, 242 in the air. The Colts, 110 on the ground, 156 in the air. It just seems like it's not all clicking just yet, but I don't know. Even though the Dallas Cowboys stink on defense, I don't think they're a very good football team overall. Yeah. I need everybody to get back and have like a full week's practice and get after it. I almost trust the Baltimore Ravens, Kyle, more next week against a better football team in the Browns than I do tonight, because I just haven't seen it all come together, and not everybody's going to be in place for this game. Taking a look at Lamar Jackson, the one thing you can give as a positive, he was on the injury report a couple weeks ago there with a banged up knee, sat him out practice a couple days. Obviously, being out with the COVID doesn't help, but he really didn't have any symptoms. Probably got that knee right. I think he'll be pretty explosive in the running game tonight, but not as effective as a passer. And I don't know if that's going to be enough to beat the Dallas Cowboys by 10 points. But we take a look also at the over-under, 45.5, 46. It does seem about right, but I got to tell you, even as bad as the Dallas defense is, and how talented the weapons are, the game feels like an under 46 to me. It really does.
Yeah, Baltimore's not going to put up a ton of points. They're just not. Dallas isn't going to. I'll be shocked if when Dallas scores a touchdown. Like, honestly, if you're playing a drinking game and you don't want to get drunk, take a shot when Dallas scores a touchdown. Because again, Andy Dalton is not good in these situations, and the Baltimore defense is getting healthier and they're good. So even though I think Baltimore probably gets in the mid to high 20s, I think this is like a 28-10, 28-6 type of game. I think Baltimore beats the brakes off them, but it's going to be really tough for them to get to 45.5, 46. So I like the under as well.
And I'm a team total guy, and I love overs. And I look at a Dallas Cowboys line here, taking a look at Bet365, over 16.5, heavy juice at minus 138. But you get off that key number of 17. I'm not anxious to jump on it. And this is coming from a guy, Colin Sunday, that jumped on Colt McCoy and the Giants offense over 16.5 when they played Seattle. So, well, why would you be on this? The Dallas Cowboys at least have competent weapons. I'm just not feeling that. And then I look at the Baltimore Ravens side here, Kyle, 27.5 minus 120. Eesh. 28 points, which means they have to get into the 30s. Can they do it? Sure, you can do it against the Cowboys. But I just don't feel it's that type of ball game where both teams are up-tempo, moving it up and down the field. We still know you have the single best kicker maybe in the history of the game on Baltimore. So points are at a premium here where, hey, it's 3rd and 11 from the 29-yard line. Let's hand it off and get 4 or 5 yards and put that 3 on the board. That's the way I have a feel. So usually I like to go over. I actually like the Baltimore Ravens under 27.5 is probably my favorite bet tonight in this game.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's tough because I don't think they've gone over 24, 26 points in 8 weeks. It's been forever since they put up a huge offensive game. So I think that's about right. They're not going to need to put their foot on the gas either because I don't see Dallas scoring many points here. I don't think there's a whole lot of stress in this game. Baltimore should be in front from bell to bell. I haven't even had a chance to talk about how poorly coached the Cowboys are with Mike McCarthy. Then you've got John Harbaugh on the other side who almost beat the Steelers with his 3rd quarterback last week and his entire team on the COVID list. Drastic differences here. Better coaching. Primetime Dalton. I like the Ravens, but I think you're probably right. Under 27.5. Seems pretty safe just because Baltimore's not going to need to do it. And even when they have needed to do it, they haven't really been able to put up a ton of points. So, like I said, 24, maybe they get to 28, 24-10, 24-6, 27-6, somewhere in that range makes a whole lot of sense to me tonight.
Yeah, because I think Dallas's defense can cover up a lot of the stink that they have in the secondary. Because, again, Lamar Jackson I don't think is a very good passer. Because when we take a look, the last month of games, throw out Washington, who can't pass, who they played twice. I'm talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Throw out the Eagles, who can't pass. They played Pittsburgh and Minnesota. In those 2 games combined, Kyle, 614 yards they gave up passing between those 2 football games with elite passing attacks and really good quarterbacks. I just wish you had a little bit more on the table from Lamar Jackson, those wide receivers, to try to push that issue, which I don't think they can, which again feeds right into my 27.5 is what I think that it will be. So interesting game tonight. Anytime we have football on the docket, especially on a Tuesday, I'm going to be tuned in and watching, even though it almost put us to sleep in that Washington game till late yesterday. But a really nice performance against Kyle's 49ers last night by the Buffalo Bills right here on the show. We had a lot of fun watching that game here. So, hey, I had to get my shots in when I can. My Eagles are real. Hey, Eagles beat the 49ers. So I guess we could just rely on that type of stuff the rest of the year and have fun. But that was our Cowboys-Ravens breakdown. That's what I'm feeling in that game. The under 27.5. Let's wrap up week 13. And we always like to do this. Winners and losers coming out. And then we're going to hit each and every game on the card for week 14. Take a look at some of these newer lines that we like to say. But going back to this past weekend, Kyle, let's start with the winners here. Who won for you this week in the NFL?
Well, first you got to look at the NFC East. Those 2 teams in the NFC East, Washington and the Giants. 2 teams that we didn't expect to win. That was a heck of a performance by that Giants defense against Seattle, putting themselves in position with their backup quarterback. We love to make fun of Joe Judge and the weird way he coaches and treats players, but I'll tell you what, that Giants team is on the rise. I love the way that defense looks right now, and Wayne Gallman looks like, they don't even need to worry that they had Devontae Freeman on IR. Wayne Gallman sort of seems to be taking that job. I'm actually really impressed with what they're doing in New York, and the same with Washington. Washington has an underrated defense. We've been talking about it. They're somehow winning football games with Alex Smith on one leg, and even that one leg got all bloodied up yesterday. I love the way that they're fighting for Ron Rivera. So two teams at the beginning of the year that we gave no shot to compete for anything this year are now, I mean, of course, it's a bad division and terrible records, but I'm really impressed at what I saw from those two teams this week.
Akbar holding it down in the chat box as well here for us. Hey, maybe Akbar is Kyle's long lost best friend out here, saying he single-handedly is getting the views. And you know what? I do agree with that. I absolutely agree with that here. So thank you for all your support, guys, coming in here in the chat box, and we'll see what happens this week in NFL action. Joe Judge is showing the people he belongs. Yeah, he belongs in as a high school football coach. So that's what I'll say about that. But my winners of the week, just going over two of them real quick. The Cleveland, not just because Kyle is disrespectful to the Cleveland Browns. I thought they played very competent football. 38 points in the first half. Baker Mayfield looks like he belonged in the NFL, but you know how topsy-turvy the NFL could be because the pressure is really going to be ratcheted up in primetime when they go against a much healthier Baltimore Ravens team, depending on what they do tonight. I thought the Browns handled themselves. Big win, 9-3. Can't take anything away from them. But also, you know who the other winner was? We talked about it with Larry when we came on the show. No, it's not the Miami Dolphins. It's the New York Jets. They won by losing this week. Yeah. There's no, I can't even believe, Kyle, the outrage that you watch. I can't believe what Greg Williams did. He's got to be fired for that. And I'm saying as an ownership of the New York Jets, front office from the New York Jets, the fan base of the New York Jets, that's a miracle that you had a guy that said, you know what? I'm going to take one for my team. I might get fired for this, and I will be laughed at by the media. But those fans in the Jets, for years to come, Greg Williams will be able to show up in the parking lot of Giant Stadium, MetLife Stadium, the Meadowlands, have a brat and a beer, and the Jets can be like, thank you for Trevor Lawrence. You are a true man of the people. So the people hating on the New York Jets and calling them losers, they were the big winner on Sunday. Now, flip it over, Kyle. Let's get to some losers in the NFL. There's a lot of them.
Oh, there really were. And, I mean, first of all, let's just call Vic Fangio it doesn't matter that the Broncos lost, but what a loser call at the end of that game. Loser coach, Vic Fangio. I've never seen a more scared loser coach. I don't understand why he's a head coach. But really, now let's talk about losers on the weekend. Obviously, you got to start with the Tennessee Titans. What a dreadful first half. And we've talked about it all year. Their pass rush is terrible, but you cannot look that bad against Baker Mayfield. I know everyone's high on Baker Mayfield after one great week, but I am not a believer in Baker Mayfield. The Titans put the Colts right back into the running for that division. Big, bad loss for the Tennessee Titans. So they are certainly losers this week. And then how about last night? The 49ers, we had a shot. If we would have won that game, we're right there in the playoff hunt. You might see them bring their starting quarterback off IR, Jimmy G, maybe George Kittle. With that loss last night, looking further and further unlikely, less likely that they will make the postseason. Now they're playing the next few games in Arizona. It's kind of all a mess. What started with so much promise early in the week ended drastically last night. That defense was beat up, so I think my 49ers are a big loser this week as well.
By the way, Rice Ripley in there says, all out blitz, fire me. I mean, can you, like Adam Gase, let's say he had the headset on, right? And you're just listening in, you're watching, like, all right, let's see if we can stop these guys. And here Greg Williams, like he's coming on from the, the flight box. Just trucking in from 37,000 feet. We are going zero blitz right here. Like you had to the fight, like it had to be like the static blast in the ear of all the coaches. Like I can't, like, you know, you get up off the bench. Like let's just say if you've ever played a sport or football specifically, and you hear like the fake punt is coming, your whole team gets up off the bench. You want to see how this actually gets executed. Everybody on that sideline, including like the GM who's sitting up in the box, has the earpiece in. And as soon as that call comes in, like, they got to stand up and watch. Like, sometimes you see me behind the telecast, Kyle. I got to go and get in front of my TV. Like, I got to see this play, like, really up close. I can't even imagine what the actual case was on the Jets sideline. So it's funny that you guys bring that up there in the chat box. I got two losers this week. And the first one I'm going to, Kyle, is from the Windy City on Sunday. In a game that we talked about last night between the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions. We'll segue into this also in just a few moments. But as I look at this game, it's one I didn't pay that much attention to because we're gamblers out here, you know, fantasy guys. If you don't have a ton of action in that game, you keep an eye on the score. It comes over in the red zone. You see what it is. The whole game, the Bears were up double digits. It didn't even cross my mind that they had a chance to lose that football game. And then I see a couple tweets come through. Oh, tough one, Bears. I'm like, wait a second here. So on Monday morning, when I jump on the treadmill. The first game I wanted to watch, Kyle, was the Lions and the Bears, and I couldn't even believe my eyes. So throw a nice little loss over there to the Chicago Bears for their organizational efforts this weekend. You know who gets the other loss? A team that we didn't expect to lose. That's the Seattle Seahawks against the New York Giants, who thought they were just good enough after their average to below average performance against the Eagles. They were going to roll their helmets out against Colt McCoy and pick up a victory. They even had the Giants shut out at the half, end up getting beating. Two big losses for me over the weekend. But let's roll into this one here, because I want to talk about that Bears-Lions game. Yeah. There's a lot of things that go wrong, right? You shouldn't lose to the Detroit Lions, who are a dead franchise with nothing on offense besides Matthew Stafford and his banged-up thumb. They move the ball up and down the field against the Chicago Bears. But the game comes down to a couple really interesting points. You had a bad holding call late in the game on the Bears. Okay, they have forced a punt. They still held on the very next possession of the Detroit Lions to punt, which again gave the Bears the ball. They end up punting, but they punt back to the Detroit Lions, Kyle, with 4 minutes to go on the clock. So you have the ball in your own 5, being the Detroit Lions, down 10 against the Chicago Bears, and you win that football game. But my favorite thing, if you follow me on Twitter, I saw the chain gang do the exactly opposite thing of what you're going to do. Many people haven't worked the chain gang, or even though the rules of the chain gang, you're taught to protect yourself. And they tell you, if anybody is coming near you, you don't move with the sticks. You drop the stick and you get out of the way. The guy on the chain gang for the Chicago Bears saw the players coming to him. So when Allen Robinson catches a pass in this direction, his back is turned. Before he turned his back, the pole was right down on the number where he needed to get for the first down. When Allen Robinson turned around, the stick guy moved a full yard and still held it down. Allen Robinson could have picked up an extra 3 yards, but saw the sticks and went out of bounds.
Exactly.
Turned out he went out a yard short. And I couldn't believe anybody make a big deal on Sunday when I went back and watched it. It was hilarious. He still should have got the first down. But when you're in that, cataclysm of an NFL game where you turn around and just looking to get out of bounds with the first down, and they move the stick marker on you, and you end up getting stuffed on 4th down, amazing stuff, Kyle. Amazing, man.
You guys got to love the NFL officials. Yeah. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and we refuse to use technology. We still have 85-year-old dudes with chains and a couple of poles, and they're running up and down the sideline. I mean, what an absolutely absurd – we're going to look back on this in 40 years and be like, what an absurd way to do things. I can't believe we were still doing that in 2020. And you're right, I was obviously watching the end of that game very closely because I had a bet on the Bears. Amazing. And I'm like, we got the first down easily. Then they're like 4th and 1. I'm like, wait, what the hell's going on? Then you see it, you're like, wait, he did. He moved the stick. He moved the damn stick. So Allen Robinson goes out. What a disaster that was. And what a primitive way to do things. 80-year-olds with chains. You got to love it. I swear one day we'll look at this and just be like, what the hell was going on back then?
And people, you should have looked at the thing on the ground. Trust me, if you're gauging the sticks throughout your whole life. I got to get to the 23-yard line, but when you turn around and the sticks are in one place, and you turn around and how fast it's actually going by, all you're doing is jumping toward ahead of the sticks. Like, I got the first down, and he comes in, he hands the football, and in the still shot, you could see him looking over like, wait a second here. Why is this not a first down? But it's like you see new things every Sunday, and the simple fact that popped up and was a major part in that game with the team winning or losing, because this is a billion-dollar industry that we're talking about. Guys get hired and fired based on you making the playoffs or not making the playoffs, and if the Bears would have won that game, they'd still be hanging around that 7th spot. Amazing stuff only in the NFL. But let's talk about Week 14 here, Kyle. About a half hour left in the show. We like to get that first look. First prognostication of some of these lines. Let's start it off with Thursday night real quick here. 101-102, New England and the Los Angeles Rams. Last time we saw these two teams, Kyle, I think we'd hit the nail on the head. Rams going to get right on offense against Arizona. They did. But I got to tell you, in my Pick 6 contest, I actually had the Chargers getting 1 point versus New England. Now, I preface this because this is really an anomaly, and I want to take a look at like some bad beats. That over-under, it's been 47.5, 48, depending where you got it. If you would have been told that the New England Patriots were going to drop 45 in that game, you'd go, I would take over 75.5 because the Chargers are going to counter. You're taking a look about a team, the New England Patriots, Kyle, that had 165 yards on the ground, 126 in the air, dropped 45 points on that team, and you still didn't get your over if you took it. That's amazing, man.
Brutal. That whole game was absolutely brutal. I cannot believe. I was just looking at Twitter waiting for the Anthony Lynn is fired tweet from Adam Schefter, and it just didn't happen. I don't know what the hell that was. And you watch New England, and you're like, why are teams giving up yards to this offense? It's a dreadful offense. Cam Newton just a slow sort of power back, just run straight ahead, or they hand it to Harris. Anytime he's got to throw a pass, it's 5 yards behind and 20 yards over their head. He can't throw it to anybody. That's why I like the Rams this week. When you look at the Rams defense might be the best defense in the league, and they don't I don't know why teams are worried about the pass anyways against New England. It's always weird, but they can just put the one corner on each receiver. Their corners are definitely capable of covering anything New England has to offer, and they could put 8 and 9 men in the box and absolutely smother this New England running game. Now, the New England defense isn't playing bad either. Look, you got the Chargers offense was playing well coming into this. It's probably the worst that Herbert's looked. Well, it's definitely the worst that Herbert's looked all year long, but I am not a believer in the Pats. Now, I will say this. The Patriots have absolutely given me fits this year. I can never get this damn team right. They frustrate the living hell out of me. Some weeks I think they're going to be good, like against Denver. They look like crap, and they go out there and lose to Denver 18-12. Then you're like, okay, should be a fun game. Chargers got a great shot. 45 points with like 15 yards passing. I know it was more than that. I'm exaggerating here, but I got to go Rams. Better defense, better offense. At home, Thursday night. I know there's no fans, so it changes things a little bit, but I'm not a believer in the Pats, so I got to go the Rams. And I like that it's under a touchdown right now because I think the Rams do win by a touchdown or more.
Yeah, drop it down to 5 at some outlets here. Look, Randy looks like in the chat box, he likes the Rams. Game Center likes the Patriots. And, of course, NC says, boggles me how a coach can be as dumb as Lynn. You are absolutely correct. But when I look at this game, quick, simple breakdown, the Rams and Jared Goff particularly have trouble if you can pressure the pocket. And they can't do that with the New England Patriots on their defense. And when you take a look at even some of the games that they did not pick up victories, they struggled a little bit against San Francisco, had the lead in that game, lost in overtime 23-20 against a team that really has their number. But look at the previous games there versus Miami, Kyle. 131 yards on the ground, 340 in the air. Versus Seattle, 106 on the ground, 283 in the air. Versus Tampa Bay, 37 on the ground, which is bad, but 376 in the air. A down game against San Francisco, an immediate dominant performance on offense, 119 on the ground and 344 in the air versus Arizona. Cam Akers, who's banged up a little bit, adds a nice little dimension to get those 3 running backs equally involved. The healthy passing game with the wide receivers. I do like the Rams early here in the week, but kudos to the New England Patriots staying on the West Coast here after their last football game where they blew out the Chargers. So they're going to stay in the same city, keep that balance, be on the same time clock. So that does bode well. Let's get the Sunday NFL action. 153, 154. The Jacksonville Jaguars at home catching 7.5, which when you look at that, raises a little bit of an eyebrow here. You expect Tennessee to bounce back, which I think they do. But I'm watching a couple things here. First half with Jacksonville versus the Minnesota Vikings defense, which isn't very good. Neither is the Tennessee defense. Laviska Shenault in the first half scored a touchdown on a crazy deflection, was heavily involved in the offense, but took a hit to his thumb and sat the second half out, Kyle. The offense just wasn't the same because you don't have that Deebo Samuel type of player, that Swiss Army knife. Looks like the x-rays came back negative. He should play this week. I'm open again to a Jacksonville Jaguars team total in this game because I do think you get a competent quarterback again. Maybe Mike Lennon threw an interception in overtime. Okay, he still was a competent quarterback. As long as he's not up against a Pittsburgh Steelers defense, I think they can operate. I like the 53 early in this week. 7.5, a little bit too much for me, though, for the Tennessee Titans, but I do think they win the game.
Yeah, we're on the exact same page. And the problem with Tennessee is they're just not going to put any pressure on the quarterback. It's just a god-awful pass rush. Now, you got to think they're a little embarrassed. They're going to be motivated. Jacksonville struggles against the run. Derrick Henry should have a nice day. But will that Tennessee defense be able to stop anybody? And right now, it just doesn't appear that they are. Now, maybe they get a Dory Jackson back finally this week, which will really help that secondary. Doesn't look like they're going to get Clowney back this year. He's gone on the IR, so that was just basically a waste of a free agent signing. I'm kind of getting sick and tired of caring where Jadeveon Clowney goes. Just go away, retire, go be a backup somewhere.
I'll tell you what he's going to do in the offseason. You ready for this one again? He's going to sit out all the way till the day before the game starts, sign a contract, get injured again, rinse and repeat like he does his whole career. Go ahead.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's what he does. Yep. It's frustrating. I don't get why people are so enamored with Jadeveon Clowney. Just get the hell out of here. But it is hard to trust Tennessee by more than a touchdown, especially after what you saw last week. Now, do you want to put money on Jacksonville? Now, we've seen them cover. They did it last week. We picked them to cover last week. We've seen them cover against a good Green Bay or an okay Green Bay team. In Lambeau Field in the cold weather. Yeah, I'm not going to, I mean, Green Bay is also a fraud. I don't know. Let's just call it what it is. But so I do think Jacksonville early in the week, I'm probably leaning that they have a nice chance to cover here. Maybe Tennessee's a money line parlay piece for me early in the week.
And keep moving here, 155, 156. Dallas and Cincinnati on Sunday. Obviously, Andy Dalton going back to Cincinnati. They're still going to play football tonight. So if we're looking at some of those advanced lines, -3, -3.5, it's really one of the games, Kyle. I look at it, and I want no piece of it. And we'll cap it on Thursday, and we'll do it again on our Sunday NFL closing line show. But when you talk about games, I can't think of a more least interesting game to try to break down and cap than Cincinnati with Allen and Andy Dalton coming to town. And you want to take the Dallas Cowboys on a short week here as a favorite. It's a really bad game. Quick thoughts on that one from you here.
Yeah, I mean, well, I do prefer Andy Dalton at 10 o'clock, Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern. That's when Andy Dalton is at his best. In Cincinnati, a place he's familiar with. We don't even know if Brandon Allen will be the quarterback. He got hit and hurt in that Miami game as well late in the game. So we kind of have to wait to see there. Early in the week, I'd probably lean Dallas. The Bengals are so bad, and I actually do think the weapons can get open. But again, we got to see what happens tonight, what kind of injuries Dallas has, et cetera. But the 4, I'm seeing 4 over there at Heritage. That doesn't feel too bad to me. I'd lean Dallas early in the week.
The dude says, I'm sick of Clowney and Josh Gordon. Yeah, don't worry. Josh Gordon's coming back. He's going to lead Seattle to a victorious stage here, which is always hilarious when I see that. 157, 158 on Sunday, Arizona and the New York Giants. Not a lot of books have odds on this game, but primarily if you're looking at some of those, the Giants getting about 2.5 at home. Over under here, I guess, would be let me see what we have as a checking on some of these books here to see if I can actually get 45. Yeah, 45 in that range is what we're looking at. Keep in mind, if Daniel Jones plays, that number probably is going to change, or unless they're anticipating him playing in this football game. Colt McCoy was, I'm trying to put it kindly, he was really bad, but didn't really inflict damage on the Giants. Looked like he was it's hard to put into words because it looked like a lower form of like Alex Smith. Like, oh my God, I'm feeling pressure. I got to throw a 3-yard out.
Yeah,
they won that football game just by saying we're just going to be more physical than the Seattle Seahawks. Kudos to the Giants for doing that and picking up a victory. But you can't get a repeat performance and expect the same results in that game because the one thing I do know, Arizona is going to score. Kyler Murray, each and every week he gets outside of that, shoulder injury, and now that time comes where they want to try to make the playoffs. He's going to run a whole lot more. He's going to be back on turf playing versus the Giants. Early in the week, I like the Giants. I love the way they played. But you don't win a lot of football games in the NFL when you're putting up or saying, let's try to hold the other team to like 17 points and get it out with a victory. I like the Arizona Cardinals a little bit early in this week here.
Yeah, I like Arizona. I think they have sort of the stuff that's going to give the Giants problems. Now, Seattle did too, but I just think that was a dud type of game for Seattle. Everyone's going to be high on the Giants. Here they are. They're coming. Their defense is playing great. I think you're absolutely right. They unleashed Kyler Murray a little bit more than he has been the last few weeks with that injured shoulder. Now it's time to crank it up. They need a win. This is a big football game. I know it's in New York, but early in the week, I'm going to lean towards the Cardinals as well. All of their weapons are finally healthy. Too much offense there and not enough offense out of the Giants. I'll take the Cardinals early in the week.
Chicago didn't look bad this week, and now we're going to take a look at it as 1 o'clock as instead of being that favored role that we, I say, hey, man, Mitch is favored by 3. I don't know if I can go that way. They still should have won and covered that football game. But again, they didn't, and that's all that matters when you're going to try to cash a ticket. 159, 160. Houston now comes to town. Colder weather, dome team going outdoors. Not a lot to like in the Houston offense, but you have Deshaun Watson, and he turned Kiki QT into Andre Johnson, into DeAndre Hopkins. It just seems like this guy is a flat-out stud and winner at quarterback where he doesn't even need all these components to have a really good and efficient offense. Now it comes down to, I actually thought the Chicago offense was very competent. Allen Robinson's playing good football. The running back is finally healthy. Mitchell Trubisky, who I think is a bad quarterback, but able to do some things that obviously Nick Foles can't do by getting outside the pocket to try to extend plays. Because the one thing we know, Houston's defense is wretched at best. This over-under is at 44.5. It's cold weather, I get it, but I'm not really scared of the monsters of the Midway defense for Chicago anymore. They're getting painted, and Deshaun Watson's going to buy some extra time. I like the over in the cold weather, 44.5 here.
Ooh, interesting. I don't hate that. As far as picking a side, it's like, oh, God, just run away and stay away. How can you trust either of these teams? I actually would probably lean Houston. earlier in the week. I just can't do the Chicago thing anymore. I mean, if you can't win a game against the Detroit Lions up 10 with them having the ball at the 5-yard line, I mean, Houston was really close to upsetting a really good Colts team. I mean, one bad fumble in the red. If they don't fumble that, I actually do think they score a touchdown there and upset the Colts. So I got to lean Houston. I think 44.5 is about right. And when you look at the flip side, the Houston defense isn't very good. They're going to give up points. If you just play competent enough, you're going to give up big plays. They struggle against the run. You saw Montgomery get going last week against Detroit, who's the only team worse than Houston at stopping the run in the NFL is the Detroit Lions. So I think you're right. I think the over 44.5 is a good call. And early in the week, I will lean Houston. Screw the Bears. Done with the Bears.
Funny, like we're talking about overs with like Chicago. It's just wild stuff, especially Deshaun Watson coming to town with not many weapons. And again, we're not talking about the greatest weather conditions. 31 degrees, 9 miles an hour. That's about what you get there in mid-December in Chicago. But I still don't think that Chicago defense is up to par. And I'm so impressed by Deshaun Watson, man. Every week just making things happen here. 161, 162, Denver and Carolina. Drew Lock goes down to Carolina. He's got his weapons. Can he perform in this game? Who the heck is actually playing for the Carolina Panthers with the COVID list and their injuries? They're favored at 3.5 with an over-under of 46.5. This one is one of those I like to say, Kyle, I need to sharpen my pencil because I don't know who's actually in or out in this football game. And do I dare try to look at a team total with those Denver Broncos here?
It's a trap, and you tried to warn me about doing it last week, and of course I didn't listen. 1 2-point conversion away, and then Vic Fangio punting that. I mean, tying field goal. It's 19-16. Everything is there. You're at the 49-yard line. You know you're not getting it back. And good Lord, Vic Fangio punt. So I can't trust the Denver offense anymore. Again, we're kind of waiting on making sure Christian McCaffrey's going to play, et cetera. So there's not a ton of lines here. And then you look at Denver, A.J. Bouye, he's going to be suspended as well. So now without Bryce Callahan and A.J. Bouye, I love that receiving core for Carolina. So early in the week, I lean Carolina. No more trusting the Broncos. Vic Fangio is a loser, a scared loser of a coach. Give me Matt Rule and the Carolina Panthers.
Minnesota, Tampa Bay, 163, 164 Sunday down in Tampa Bay. So you get some good weather conditions there. What we anticipate, looking at about 70 to 80 degrees, 78 to 80 degrees and light winds in Tampa. Shouldn't be any problems here. I was a lot higher on the Tampa Bay defense earlier in the year, but seem to be now susceptible in that secondary. And Minnesota can put up points and move the football. You pencil in Minnesota each and every week in that mid to high 20s. So I don't think anything's stopping them. And again, Tampa Bay looks like they may have answered some questions over the second half versus the Kansas City Chiefs. They just got to stop turning the football over. But the one thing we do about Minnesota, they don't really make you turn the football over. Outside of a couple decent safeties, they don't have a lot going for them. And even before the game started, Eric Kendricks, one of the better linebackers in football, didn't even play versus the Jacksonville Jaguars due to a calf issue. Calf issues are like hamstrings. If you injure one, that's usually a few weeks here, and he was already banged up. If he couldn't go and maybe had a setback on Sunday, might be tough to go against Tampa Bay. 51.5. There's no way in hell I'm taking an under in this game when you have two offenses that can really get after it and two susceptible defenses.
Yeah, the over here is the play, and I actually like the Bucs by a touchdown. I don't like the Vikings all that much either. I mean, they had to squeak out a lucky overtime win against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yep. I mean, think about that. A team that doesn't want to win with nobody in the secondary. Now, Tampa Bay secondary has started playing back to what they were last year. They're playing way too much zone. Remember earlier in the year, they were sort of aggressive, playing man-to-man, letting Carlton Davis shadow some guys. Now they've kind of regressed into this zone, and teams have taken advantage of it. Maybe the week off helps them out a little bit, but I like Tom Brady after bye weeks. His arm's going to be a little livelier. Always like Tom Brady a little more, especially this late in his career, after some rest. So I like the Bucs by a touchdown, and I think you're absolutely right. The over is the play here.
Yeah, got a couple. Clint Richardson, Tampa Bay money line look. Yes, Tampa Bay money line looks good. Of course it looks good. Favored by that 6.5 spread. I do think they win that football game, but there's a lot. You want to talk about fantasy football implications, Kyle, for that game? There are a ton of weapons. You're going to be busting out the gritty in the end zone a few times for Minnesota, and we'll see if they say, hey, Antonio, just stay in the middle. Let me feed these beasts on the outside. And again, Tampa Bay, if you're listening right now, Ronald Jones II, 20 carries, work off of play action, deep shots. You will score 30. Thank you. Now let's keep moving on here. 165, 166, last of the 1 o'clock games here on Sunday. Kansas City and Miami. Had Larry on talking about Miami. Look, you look at this game, it's hard to go against Kansas City at any time. But then again, we saw that 13.5, 14-point number, which I thought Kansas City would probably explode Denver. They didn't. And Denver legitimately had a chance to win that football game.
Yep.
Now we're going to Miami, rookie quarterback, Kansas City on the road. Miami fights, man. Like, I would be really shocked, Kyle. Like, last week I wouldn't have been shocked if Denver got wiped off the earth in that game. I would be shocked if Miami gets hammered in this football game. But it's really a shame that Fitzpatrick is not going to give Miami that extra jolt in the passing game to move the football. I thought Tua played a very good game in the second half, but Kyle, we're talking about Cincinnati. Again, the best friend to every team in the NFL playing against them on defense. Different animal this week. 7.5 is going to be a big demarcation line in this game. 49.5 also. I actually think the game stays under the 49.5.
Yeah, I actually like that as well, just because of the Tua thing. It's not a real explosive offense. And look, we've talked about it now the past few weeks. Kansas City against the spread was awesome last year. Absolutely phenomenal. This year, against these spreads, they're just not covering. They're playing down to their competition a little bit. The Miami defense is built fantastically to compete with Kansas City. They got two good corners. They have a pass rush. They have a little bit of a running game now with Gaskin back. They have some competent wide receivers, and the Kansas City defense isn't all that good. So early in the week, I think the Dolphins cover here. I just don't trust the Chiefs now anymore over a touchdown when, maybe 6 weeks ago we did. They just don't seem to have that second gear. They're not trying to put teams away. So early in the week, I got to lean with the Dolphins to cover. And I think you're right. I like the under 49 because I think they can hold the Chiefs offense in check a little bit. And the Miami offense, not as explosive without Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback.
I mean, look at the Dolphins throughout the entire year. You're talking about even playing some upper echelon teams. Second week of the season, they lose to Buffalo by 3. Then they go to Seattle, or they lose to Seattle 31-23. Then all of a sudden you get that big win streak. Beat the Niners, beat the Jets, beat the Rams, beat Arizona, beat the Chargers. Go and play Denver. Rookie quarterback struggles. You lose by a touchdown, but still competitive. You hammer the Jets 20-3, and you bust up Cincinnati. Now those last couple teams aren't very good, but you're still picking up victories. Now you step up in class. This is a measuring stick game for the Dolphins, where maybe they can take a moral victory out of this one, saying, hey, man, 31-28, 24-20, we really hung in there against these guys. We're building for the future. I think that can be the case in this one. So I'm leaning towards Miami early in the week. 167, 168, Indianapolis. Phillip Rivers going to play Las Vegas versus Derek Carr. Carr had a really nice game against the Jets. Not to say that nobody has a nice game against the Jets, because just about everybody does. But looking at this line, opens up -3, drops to 2.5, over under 51.5. I do lean towards the over in this game because, again, you're in a dome. Phillip Rivers put Indianapolis in this game down for 26 to 28 points, maybe more here. But I do think Las Vegas can counter because, like the Bears defense, Kyle, I'm sort of losing it a little bit here on the Colts defense.
Yeah, the Colts defense hasn't been the same. But, I mean, let's talk about the Raiders for a second. They get beat by 5 touchdowns by the Falcons. 5 touchdowns. Then they go out last week. And if it wasn't for one of the all-time, I mean, depending how your perspective on it, bonehead / fantastic zero blitz calls in history, they would have lost to the hapless, lowly, pathetic New York Jets. So am I supposed to be that big of a believer in the Raiders? Yeah. I don't think so. Let's not forget Phillip Rivers, your counterpart, your doppelganger. We like to call it a Phil Sember kind of time because he's always good in December. When you look back at those years with the Chargers, they would, they'd be 4-8 going into December and reel off 4 straight wins and somehow sneak into the AFC playoffs at 8-8. Phillip Rivers in December. Good weather there. Not a real pass rush there for the Raiders. They don't really get after the quarterback. I like the Colts early in the week, and I'm sort of leaning that over. I'll probably stay away. For some reason, 51 has been my kryptonite. I've pushed 51 like 3 times this year. It drives me absolutely insane. I don't know what the hell's going on there, but I like the Colts early in the week. It seems like the Raiders are going backwards. I like the Colts this week. I think the defense can get back on track. You're not going to see another 200-yard game out of Darren Waller, so give me the Colts.
169, 170, 4 o'clock game out west Seattle. Did we learn our lesson yet? Opens up -14, hanging around 13.5. Seattle going to be angry from losing to the New York Giants last week. I like the showing that the Jets had, particularly on offense, where they showed some life, and just hoping it's one of those things where it's a shame because we like Frank Gore, Hall of Famer, but if Frank Gore is down for this football game, like he should be, he got a concussion last week at his old-ass age. You're trying not to win football games. He's an old man. Sit him down a week to let him get the cobwebs out of his head. But if you know Adam Gase is going to fire Frank Gore up for 25 carries and slam him into a brick wall in this football game. But again, I'm not trusting Seattle to win by 14. Should they? Absolutely. Will they? No, they won't.
Yeah, I just run away from this game. When I see Seattle, it's hard to figure out Seattle. They always play close. Then you've got the Jets. I mean, it's the Jets. This is a total stay away game for me. If you want to make it some sort of money line parlay piece, 8, 9 games, I know a lot of people like to do that. I like to do that. That's probably the way I'd go. Can't trust Seattle to win any game by a lot of points, especially double digits, because that's just not the way they play. It doesn't seem to matter who they play. Seattle doesn't blow teams out, so it's really tough to trust them. Stay away game for me. Make it a money line parlay piece.
Yeah, I need Russ to start cooking again because that 47, I would be looking at it because the Jets secondary is abysmal. Like Russ could have 370 and 4 scores in this game with ease, but it just doesn't seem like they're trying to get into playoff mode, and it's not working out very well for them on the offensive side of the ball. Bad performance against the Philadelphia Eagles, bad performance against the New York Giants. We'll see if that changes up. But again, you're going to get an athletic front seven out of the Jets. The way you beat them is throw the ball deep. Let Russ cook. They should be able to burn them up. 151, 152, 425 game. The Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions. Nice win for the Lions, hanging around in a competitive season. Seems like everybody that fires their coach gets a competitive effort, at least for the next few games, and you might get that here. But Green Bay is coming to town, and the question is not what you're going to get out of the Green Bay Packers. It's how much you're going to get out of the Green Bay Packers. That over-under is at 55. I do think Detroit's going to be able to score. Maybe Kenny Golladay gets back into it. Maybe Swift gets back into the backfield, which can only help. You're in a dome, not worried about cold weather conditions, and you have a putrid Detroit defense that even Mitchell Trubisky can go up and down the field for like 360 yards. It's going to get ugly in this one. I do think Detroit can play them tough because the Philadelphia Eagles had no business even being down by 6 points to the Green Bay Packers. They couldn't move the football for 3.5 quarters. Matthew Stafford's going to be able to do that. Backdoor Matthew Stafford.
Well, he could get raw dogged in this one, absolutely. Yeah. But I kind of want to see. I hope Kenny Golladay comes back this week. Looks like he was sprinting before the game, so that's kind of encouraging. But you want to see if you're going to back Detroit and you want him to cover. I do think you want DeAndre Swift. Green Bay struggles against the run. You want the full complement of running backs. So if I'm betting Detroit, I want to see later in the week, do they get Golladay back? Do they get DeAndre Swift back? I like Aaron Rodgers in the dome. Now, he's a much better home team than he is a home player than he is a road player. We can go over all the numbers. The numbers speak for themselves. Basically a 500 quarterback throughout his career on the road. Much, much better in Lambeau Field. But I just can't trust the Lions. I know that they pulled off some BS miracle against the Bears, but think about this. They were losing to Mitchell Trubisky and the Bears by 10 with 4 minutes left. Now I'm supposed to pick them to cover in any way, shape, or form against Green Bay. I'll consider it later in the week if the injury report tells me that they're going to get their 2 offensive stars back. But right now, I got to go with the Packers by 7.5 on the road. It's ugly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. And they got some things, Packers haven't won by 10 plus points in Detroit, says Jimmy Legs, which is valid. Stafford plays well in divisional games. He does. It's in a dome, so you're going to get some good weather in that one, not have to worry. Mr. Mister says the Packers team total. I would agree, but then we're probably talking like 31, 32 points, which should they be able to get to? Sure, they should be able to get there. But boy, that's a tough task. And one missed field goal or extra point really burns you in that type of environment. 171, 172. How about this one? The Atlanta Falcons, who fired their head football coach, Raheem Morris, has them playing really good football. And if they can just try to avoid the New Orleans Saints, things would be looking on the up and up. Here's the issue that you have. The Chargers haven't fired their head football coach. They quit last week. That's a major issue. Are they just going to fire up the team and get back after it? Because the one thing I know about Atlanta, Kyle, I'm getting an honest effort every single week, and a dome team that's going to be playing in a dome, I think Atlanta goes in and beats the Chargers here. I do. And I wouldn't have said that last week if there was a different outcome, but you can't get beat 45-0, keep your head coach, and the writing is on the wall. That coach won't be back at the end of the year. He's a nice guy. I don't think you just turn that switch and have a valid effort out of the Chargers. I like Atlanta in this game. They're favored, and I agree.
Yeah, it's crazy. These are legitimately 2 teams. These are the 2 worst teams playing with a lead in the NFL. I mean, we've seen them both give up massive leads. These are 2 completely untrustworthy teams. Secondaries are absolutely vulnerable across the board. I like the over. The over 50 kind of makes a lot of sense, although I've been burned with that when I've done that with the Falcons this year. It's really strange. Herbert should be able to bounce back. I don't think they get shut out in this game, obviously, but I'm with you early in the week. I want to rewatch not the Atlanta games against New Orleans. I'm going to go back and rewatch a couple of the games against some of the weaker defenses, like against Minnesota. Sort of get more of a feel for it, get it fresh in my mind. But I'm with you right now. I lean the Falcons, and I guess I lean the over, even though the Falcons have burned me a couple times on that this year.
You got it. Money Channel, 45-0, Donnie. Better team.
Oh,
Miami won 48-0 last week. Those Hurricanes. What are you talking about? Some respect on that name out there. Let's keep it moving here. What do we got here? So we're going down the list. And, I'm trying to figure out which game is up next, but I'm having trouble, reading, who's actually starting and what this game is all about. 173, 174, New Orleans and Philadelphia. Completely agree with the move to Jalen Hurts for this football game. You would have a burial and a funeral on Tuesday of Carson Wentz if he was allowed to stay in the pocket with this offensive line and weapons that the Philadelphia Eagles have. The only way that you're not going to get somebody killed this weekend is if they can get out of the way of the car crash, and that's Jalen Hurts. Young legs, get out of the pocket, because if you take a 5-step drop this week against a top 10 pass rush like New Orleans has, they will crumble and bury your quarterback at the 50-yard line of Lincoln Financial Field. We saw the line, 6.5. It opens up, goes to 7. Jalen Hurts announces a starter. Now 7.5. Over under from 45, now down to 44. This reminds me of a really good high school football game. And not to say the two teams are bad, because New Orleans is very good. But you now have two of those ultra athletes at quarterback. Not quarterbacks, right? The athletic quarterbacks that can run and get out of the way. But here's what we're going to laugh at from the Philadelphia Eagles perspective this week. You're going to watch Doug Peterson hand the football off. You're going to watch Miles Sanders get 15-plus carries. Boston Scott get 5 to 7 carries. Howard come off the bench, get 5 carries. And he's going to roll them out of the pocket to the left and to the right. And we're all going to go, Doug, what the hell was this the entire year when your offense stunk? So I'm actually interested for the first time in weeks to watch a Philadelphia Eagles game. Agree with Carson Wentz on the bench. Put Carson Wentz back in the following week when maybe there's not a car crash going to happen back in the pocket. But smart move to protect Carson Wentz, because you ain't going anywhere. The dude's got $30 million a year the next 2 years. Protect him, get him to the offseason, get some offensive line healthy, and get back at it. But at least we'll have some fun watching Jalen Hurts try to get out of the way from the shark attack that's coming here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we got to watch out. Darius Slay probably won't play. I guess they say it's not a serious knee injury. We'll have to see. It's tough, though. I look at it, you look at that pass rush of Philadelphia, and it's tough to take Taysom Hill by a touchdown or more, because, it's not like that he's this electric quarterback. He looked good against Atlanta. He's played great against Atlanta. You still lean the Saints here. The Eagles, kind of a train wreck, doing all these experimental stuff. Now they go to Hurts. We'll see if they can commit to the running game. They made a charge for that backdoor cover last week against the Packers and had it taken away. But right now I lean the Saints, but it does make me nervous. Anytime we're taking a limited sort of quarterback like Taysom Hill and giving him a touchdown or more, makes me a bit nervous. But, early in the week, I can't trust the Eagles, and Jalen make it hurt so good. I got to go with the Saints right now.
No, and I completely agree with you in that. It's really – New Orleans is going to come in here and be really functional. The Eagles are going to be completely dysfunctional. So the only way you can go is with New Orleans, because they're going to be able to control the game by running on the ground. And every week, Taysom Hill is getting better. So when Drew Brees comes back, that offense is going to go from level 8 to 10 because of all the options you can do. So imagine Drew Brees comes back and he's not ineffective. You go back to Taysom Hill. It's an embarrassment of riches here. We're looking at Philadelphia for one quarterback, and this team's got 2 quarterbacks. So 175, 176, Washington and San Francisco. Nick Mullins, who we said last night, will not be able to throw you to victory, but yet they were trying to have him throw them to victory because the Buffalo Bills came out on fire on offense. Not the case with Washington coming to town, and I love these type of matchups because people are going to get tricked and be like, oh, did you see Washington beat those Pittsburgh Steelers? They threw the ball sideline to sideline, 1 yard, 2 yards, 8 yards. How about the one play that actually broke the game open, which they got lucky with? Well, I think it was 14-3, a 3rd and 17. They threw a 1-yard pass that Sims, I believe, took upfield for 20 yards and really got the game in motion.
Yeah.
The one thing also that you saw last night the San Francisco defense couldn't handle, and nobody can handle it, is a Patrick Mahomes type effort at quarterback. If you watched the Bills last night, every single play that their quarterback, Josh, had to, what am I losing my mindset here? Josh Allen had to make. He made every time rockets all over the place, blanket coverage throwing dimes. You're not getting that out of Alex Smith. San Francisco by a touchdown here with ease.
Woo! I love your confidence in my boys, but I have bad luck when I'm going to go the other way. Washington defense is really good, and I don't know how the 49ers score on that defense. I don't trust Nick Mullins. I didn't They don't seem to be committed to just sticking with Raheem Mostert, who is by far their best running back. They insist on going to Jeff Wilson and Tevin Coleman and all this other nonsense. Just give the ball to if I knew Mostert was going to get 20 touches, I'd probably be there with you and take the 49ers. But right now, I think that Washington defense is playing lights out. I think they cause Nick Mullins to make some mistakes. You get some defensive scores here. Still like the under. I don't think either offense puts up a whole ton of points. So the under 43.5 that I'm looking at right now makes a whole ton of sense. And I can't trust my boys right now. So I got to go Washington as the road dogs in Arizona.
Yeah, because Antonio Gibson's going to miss this next football game, too. And that is devastating for that Washington offense. And again, we're talking about when you're trying to enter it in, and I like the progress. Like, Washington's season doesn't make sense. A lot of the teams in the NFC don't make sense because the fact that you're going to win the division, all you do is hurt yourself in your draft, and you don't gain really much out of it. The only team that I would say should stay the course would be the New York Giants. Playing Alex Smith for the Washington Redskins and getting some wins here is the most ludicrous franchise thing you can ever have. You should be tanking because, A, Alex Smith is not your future, and you're trying to see if the young kid could play at Haskins, which you probably can't. So then you move on and you're drafting a quarterback, which now you're not going to be able to get your quarterback in the draft because you're getting some of these victories. But I just get back and when I look and see on the offense for Washington is really bad. And the way, again, you're going to have to beat the 49ers is with a mobile quarterback, which you don't have. So 3 yard passes in a cloud of dust. They're not beating San Francisco. San Francisco will be seething in this next game. And what's the issue where last night that you saw with the Pittsburgh Steelers, you got up 14-0? How about late in the football game? The Steelers can't run the ball. 3rd and inches, 4th and inches. Yeah. You're throwing go routes to a 5th string running back trying to win football games. That's not the case that's going to be coming to town here with San Francisco. They'll run the football. They'll put Nick Mullins in a good spot, and Nick Mullins won't be down 17 points asking you to come back. I'm higher than your San Francisco than you are. What's going on this show here?
I can't trust them. They broke my heart last night, so I just can't back them. And I like Washington's defense. And maybe a little Alex Smith revenge. I wish the game was actually in San Francisco, but that's a tough one. The under is the bet I feel best about in this game, in this matchup. Yeah. I don't feel great about either team. I just worry that Washington defense is for real, and I think Nick Mullins, when you pressure Nick Mullins and force him to throw, he makes mistakes, and that's not a recipe to win, especially when you're basically playing a de facto road game in Arizona. So I'm going to lean Washington. I've lost all faith in my boys.
Yeah, no, we'll see how it comes back here, and we'll see what's some fun next week. But I think they win that game at 425. Pittsburgh and Buffalo, 177-178. Great night. We thought we were going to have maybe an undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers in here coming in to see one of their first true tests, but they dropped the game to the lowly Redskins yesterday. Now have to regroup. And what did we see last? Buffalo looked absolutely phenomenal last night. Now you're going to take a look at them coming up against the Steelers. Buffalo is a better football team than the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers were 11-0 and a very good football team, don't get me wrong. But if you're looking to line up both of these teams, I have a super athletic quarterback in Buffalo. I have 2 young running backs that can get after it in Buffalo. I have good wide receivers in Buffalo. I still have the semblance of a good defense that got back Mac Milano yesterday and looked like a completely different team. Now you're going to play the Pittsburgh Steelers who can't run the football. They're going to be single-dimensional once again. You now have cornerbacks that can line up against that good passing team, that the Pittsburgh Steelers with some decent wide receivers. Buffalo 2.5, they win by 3 now. Now the stink is off the Pittsburgh Steelers. The pressure builds back in. Now, oh my God, we have to start winning because the Chiefs are going to overtake us. Steelers are getting beat Sunday night.
Oh, I like it. I'm gonna go back to my boys in Pittsburgh. I actually liked Washington to cover Monday night. I thought that, and I like the under in that game. Pittsburgh's been good to me this year. They've had a rough couple of weeks playing some physical, tough defenses in Baltimore and in Washington. I think they get back on track this week. I'm still not all that impressed with the Buffalo defense. I know they looked decent against Nick Mullins and my 49ers last night. Pittsburgh should get James Conner back, which, I mean, it's not giving you an explosive player, but it's giving you one more body, at least a competent type running back, if you want to call him that. I think Pittsburgh gets off the schneid, gets back to rolling. Everyone's high on Buffalo, down on Pittsburgh. I'll take the contrarian side. Give me the points and give me the 11-1 Steelers.
Like, even to take the last 5 games versus the Steelers, they played the Dallas Cowboys, who were wretched, and they were down in that football game and almost lost. Then you play Cincinnati, who's out of it, Jacksonville out of it. Then you get Baltimore off COVID. You barely beat them 19-14. And then you show up against Washington, who's in an inept offensive team. You get beat by them after being up 14 points. You're finally stepping up to the bell to play an elite team in the AFC. me, I think they get knocked out here. So we'll see what happens. And then finally, let's wrap it up here with Monday Night Football. Baltimore and Cleveland, 179-180. Lamar Jackson, he's playing tonight. You'll probably see them get a little bit healthier if they don't get injured tonight, obviously, throughout the week, getting guys back, a full week of practice to take on the Cleveland Browns that they mashed earlier in the season. We're looking at some opening lines. Baltimore favored by -1. So how could that be? Look at the Cleveland team, out and running, trying to get after it. But we're also trying to match this up because the one thing that Cleveland does really well is run the football, and they're going to be down possibly their best offensive lineman with Teller. I don't know if he's got COVID, but he's on the COVID list, which means he could play, might not play. Keep an eye on that later in the week because if you get a healthy defensive line for Baltimore, they can stalemate that offensive line. Then we'll see when the rubber meets the road in that football game. But a really good game that I'm looking forward to that we'll have right here on sportsbook.com on our Monday Night Football live betting show. Early in the week, I'll lean towards Baltimore and the -1 here.
Yeah, that's the right answer. Obviously, that's the right answer because the Cleveland Browns are frauds, and they're going to, when they face a tough defense and face adversity, Baker Mayfield shrinks when that happens. They didn't face any adversity against a soft, bad Tennessee defense. But I think that Baltimore beats the brakes. Now, of course, we got to see what kind of health they're in after tonight. If Lamar and everyone else go, it's hard. Don't go and bet this game right now. But if everything's, in a vacuum right now, if we have the two teams, before the Ravens play and all those players stay healthy and are able to play, I like the Ravens and I like them big. I think the line's too short. I know Cleveland's got the better record right now, but I think they're the lesser team. They can't handle adversity. Can't wait to call that game and get some redemption with the Browns getting pummeled to shut some of the haters. No, I'm having a lot of fun and I deserve it. I'm having fun with that. But give me the Ravens early in the week.
Now, good stuff here. Thank you guys for tuning in today. 58 likes. We do thank you for that. If you want to hit the thumbs up or the thumbs down, that is your prerogative as long as you hit somebody's thumbs here. 240 people currently watching the show live on a Tuesday, getting you ready. Just a quick wrap up here also because we have the game tonight. And, hey, what's your picks? What's your plays? You know me. I'm an over guy, but when I don't feel the over, I just don't force things. I like under 27.5 team total for the Baltimore Ravens, Kyle. What are you thinking tonight on a quick wrap-up on that game?
Yeah, I think that's the right call. Like I said, Andy Dalton, he stinks in prime time. I think the Ravens win this one, and I think they win it pretty easy. I actually think they cover that spread. And one little prop bet I do think Lamar Jackson goes over 55 yards rushing tonight, or I think 54.5 is what I had. I like that prop bet for tonight as well. Give me Baltimore, probably in the under in the game, and give me that prop bet for Lamar Jackson.
And also a great game there. We don't know really which team is going to come out to play tonight. Extended layoff for the Dallas Cowboys and banged up. COVID for the Baltimore Ravens and banged up. Maybe you want to wait a couple minutes in that game. Like, what? Lamar Jackson looks good and he's on it. So obviously a very good in-game betting type situation to look for. But we will be back on Thursday on our NFL Key Show, sharpening the pencils. And again, we got a pretty good Thursday night football game that we'll be able to break down as well. Kelsey Kramer will join us for the Pick 6 contest. And then, of course, Sunday afternoon, we will be live once again on the closing line, getting you guys ready for Week 14 NFL action. Thanks for joining us again. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Kyle Purviance. We are sportsbook.com, and this was your Week 14 Tuesday NFL show. Good luck tonight on the game.
Yeah.